She was the villain.
How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her image.
They really hate each other now, and they cannot hide it. Any award that's being gifted to them of Humanitarian of the Year.
The cameras were supposed to catch another perfect royal moment, polished and ready for headlines. Instead, they locked onto something much heavier, something tense, something that couldn't be hidden anymore. When Prince Harry stepped out of that black SUV in New York, his face told the entire story before anyone spoke a single word. His eyes were tight, jaw clenched, shoulders stiff like he was holding back a storm that had been building for months. This wasn't the calm silence of someone comfortable in the spotlight. This was pressure, the kind that builds right before someone snaps under flashing lights. For Meghan, it looked like routine kicked in automatically. The smile switched on like stage lights, polished, practiced, flawless on cue. She played the part perfectly, but the contrast between them was deafening. The gap hit instantly, sharp enough to make everyone watching feel uneasy. Then the crowd broke through the noise. Someone yelled, "Stop using our offspring," and everything cracked wide open. That was the second the entire energy shifted. Harry's head snapped toward the sound, anger flashing across his face for a split second before he turned away fast. But not before grabbing Meghan's arm. Not gentle, not loving, just urgent and sharp, like someone desperately trying to escape the moment. His lips moved, but no one could hear the words. All you could sense was pure tension as cameras kept popping nonstop. From that moment on, nothing felt staged or smooth. The prince who once pushed back against the palace now looked like a man trying to protect himself from the pressure, from the cameras, from whatever went catastrophically wrong behind closed doors. They walked the red carpet side by side, but every step stretched the invisible distance between them wider. What the public saw as glamorous, insiders quietly called a silent war playing out in real time. Body language experts had a field day analyzing every frame. They slowed down the footage, zoomed in on micro-expressions, broke down every gesture. Their conclusions were unanimous. This wasn't a couple having a rough night. This was a relationship that had already fractured, now being exposed under the harshest possible lighting. One analyst pointed out how Harry broke formation immediately upon arrival, stepping ahead of Meghan, walking faster with his eyes glued to the carpet instead of the crowd. That wasn't confidence or leadership. That was distance, deliberate and unmistakable. But here's what most people don't know. That tense New York appearance wasn't the beginning. It was just the moment when everything that had been brewing privately became impossible to hide publicly. The real breaking point, according to insiders, happened weeks earlier in Paris. And that night tells an even darker story about where this relationship actually stands. To the world, Paris looked like a win. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex stepped onto the red carpet looking powerful and united as flashes exploded around them. For weeks, tabloids had hyped the appearance as their big reset moment, the night they would flip the script and reclaim the narrative. Meghan shimmered in metallic gold, every movement intentional, every glance aimed straight at the cameras. Harry followed in a classic tux, nodding toward fans behind the barricades. On paper, it screamed strength and resilience, but the illusion cracked almost immediately for anyone paying close attention. When the first wave of flashes hit, tension leaked through the shine. Harry's face didn't match Meghan's energy at all. He wasn't smiling. He was enduring. A tight exhale slipped out, subtle but telling. While Meghan waved smoothly, strain flickered across his expression, the kind that no amount of media training can fully hide. Then came that same heckler's voice cutting through the noise. "Stop using our offspring." Harry's jaw locked, eyes snapping toward the sound before darting to the entrance doors. This wasn't shock. It looked like recognition, like those words hit a nerve that had already been exposed in private conversations. What happened next tells you everything about where they are now. Harry reached for Meghan's arm, but witnesses described it as a signal rather than affection. The warmth was gone, replaced by quiet control and a desperate need to move fast. From that second on, the night unraveled in carefully managed silence. They hit their marks, delivered applause and poses, but the genuine connection had evaporated. To casual viewers, it was glamorous. To people actually paying attention, it was pain dressed up as grace. The breakdown didn't happen overnight. Friends close to Harry describe a gradual emotional withdrawal that's been building for months, maybe longer. The jokes faded. The warmth cooled. The easy laughter vanished completely. When people asked if everything was okay, he nodded and changed the subject immediately. That silence wasn't peace. It was retreat, pure and simple. Insiders noticed it first during planning meetings. Harry stopped weighing in on decisions. Where he once challenged ideas or pushed back on strategies, he now stayed neutral, eyes down, hands folded. Meghan spoke more, decided more, controlled the room entirely. To outsiders watching their public appearances, it looked like smooth teamwork. To people actually in those rooms, it felt completely one-sided. One former advisor described it bluntly. He checked out, not physically but emotionally. He was present in body, but his mind was gone. That kind of withdrawal doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly when someone feels unheard for too long, when every concern gets dismissed, when peace becomes impossible to find. Public appearances started following the same troubling pattern. Harry began arriving early and leaving fast, avoiding lingering conversations at all costs. Meghan stayed glowing, composed, perfectly camera-ready. She leaned into the spotlight while he hovered at the edge of it, barely participating. Side by side, they looked united for the photos. Frame by frame, the imbalance became impossible to miss. Then came the scheduling changes that really raised eyebrows. Harry began skipping optional events, citing exhaustion, privacy needs, or personal time. Insiders say it wasn't burnout from overwork. It was active avoidance. Each public appearance felt heavier than the last, like a burden he could barely carry anymore. Behind closed doors, communication between them thinned out dramatically. Arguments didn't escalate into shouting matches. They just stalled out, conversations ending unfinished, issues left unresolved. Harry stopped pushing for any kind of resolution. Meghan pushed forward anyway, and when one person disengages while the other accelerates, that gap grows dangerously fast. Friends close to Harry say he started leaning heavily on old coping routines. Long walks alone where nobody could find him. Late nights up reading in separate spaces. Time spent deliberately away from shared areas of their home. He wasn't plotting some dramatic exit. He was just trying to cope with a situation that had become unbearable. Meanwhile, Meghan doubled down on precision and control. Every outfit meticulously planned, every appearance polished to perfection, every moment framed for maximum impact. To her, control meant stability and success. To Harry, it felt like suffocating pressure that never let up. The tension showed in small moments the cameras barely caught, but couldn't completely hide. A pause before stepping forward together. A half-second delay in reactions that should be instant. Smiles that didn't reach the eyes anymore. Touches that looked practiced and rehearsed instead of natural and affectionate. Staff members noticed it too. One assistant quietly observed. They stopped moving like a unit. And once that rhythm breaks, it's incredibly hard to fake convincingly. What once felt like a genuine partnership started feeling like parallel paths. Same destination on paper, completely different pace in reality. Same public image carefully maintained, radically different emotions underneath. By the time that New York event happened, the cracks weren't new discoveries. They were just finally, unavoidably exposed. The red carpet didn't cause the fracture. It simply revealed what had been true for months. And here's the hardest truth that insiders whisper now when they think nobody's listening. It wasn't one explosive argument, one dramatic moment, or one unforgivable mistake. It was the slow, painful realization that they were no longer fighting for the same thing anymore. Harry desperately wanted peace, quiet, and stability. Meghan wanted momentum, relevance, and continued impact. Both kept smiling for the cameras. Both kept walking the red carpets. But behind all the flashes and choreographed applause, the story had already fundamentally changed. Not with a dramatic bang that would make headlines, but with a distance that grew louder every single time the cameras clicked. By the time New York arrived, the performance was literally all they had left. The laughter sounded mechanical and forced. The eye contact felt staged rather than genuine. And the man standing next to her wasn't angry anymore. That phase had already passed completely. He looked hollow, emotionally emptied out, going through motions he no longer believed in. And that's the real danger nobody sees coming until it's too late. Not rage, not public scandal, just profound emptiness. Because when love transforms into mere survival, it doesn't explode spectacularly. It erodes slowly, quietly, completely, until nothing authentic remains underneath the performance. What started as tension in Paris didn't end in New York. It just became impossible to hide anymore. Every story has a natural rhythm, and theirs had started stuttering like a heartbeat skipping beats. Uneven, fragile, impossible for anyone to ignore. You could hear it in the pauses between manufactured smiles, in clipped sentences whispered desperately off camera, in silences that lingered just a second too long and left discomfort hanging in the air. This isn't a fairy tale anymore. It's a slow-motion unraveling happening in real time, and the cameras are catching every painful second of it. The question isn't whether this marriage can survive. The question is how long they can keep pretending it already hasn't fallen apart.